5 random things about Australia, spoken about by an Australian. Alright, and before this video starts, remember to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy the video. These types of videos take a bit of time to type up, record and edit, so if you enjoyed, please let me know. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. Number 1. Okay, so we aren't actually all being attacked by animals every day in Australia. It's probably more like every second day. For some reason, people who live outside of Australia seem to think we are attacked by animals regularly, but in reality, this depends where you live. So let's start in the city. In the cities, there are no real animals except for birds, cats, just generic animal stuff. Bin chickens. And if there are any snakes in the city, it's usually because it's flooded and all the animals have been washed into the city. The environment there is really rough and it's just not a place for animals to live. In some cities they are near rivers and you'll have a lot of animals living near the water, but that isn't too many. So yeah, if you want to be safe from animals, live in the city. I mean, there's the occasional snake, sometimes kangaroo, but it's only impossible for them to get in because trying to get into any city in this fucking country is a maze, so good luck with that. Secondly, we have the weird middle ground between the city and the outback. This is usually referred to as the coast, and these places are usually situated near the ocean and they have more of a beachy vibe slash modern day towns with a mixture of forest and sometimes just rural nothing. Trust me, I know Mother Nature just went fucking mental with the elements and the landscape. This means the animals here vary drastically. Usually the biggest threats to people staying in these regions are actually the insects and small animals. For instance, I once took a shower and then proceeded to dry myself off afterwards, and I felt these sharp prickly things poking me in the back. Me being a curious person, I turned to look, and it was a fucking centipede that decided to sleep in my towel. I then screamed, I'm not ashamed to say it, and threw my towel into the bathtub. And now, ever since then, I have mild PTSD whenever I look at a towel and take a shower, so every time I take a shower it takes an extra minute because I have to check the towel. And that happened 2 years ago, and it still scares me. Other forms of animals that wreck people's shit include brown snakes, tiger snakes, taipans, copperheads, death adders, red-bellied black snakes. Oh, hang on, that's just the list of snakes. Shit. Anyways, you also have to watch out for blue ring octopi if you ever go swimming, or box jellyfish, but good fucking luck because of the size of 50-cent coins. And those animals will put you in the hospital or kill you, so keep an eye out for them. Usually you don't have to, when you go swimming, look out for them. It's rare to see them, and usually if there are some there, there'll be signs telling you, hey, don't go into the water unless you want to be in excruciating pain and die. We also have a lot of spiders, but most of them are actually pretty chill on the coastal region. There are a few dangerous ones, but most of them, like the day longlegs, to quote my dad, don't fuck with them and it won't bite you. Day longlegs can't actually technically bite you, they're just creepy looking. And honestly, there's one in my room right now while I'm recording this. They're just everywhere. You just kind of have to accept them. They're a part of your life if you come here. There are some other animals that will hurt you, but really they're the main ones that will get you, if any. So yeah, if you go to the coast, which I recommend, that's where I live, great place, living near the ocean, but being it's enough variety that you can go inland, outlands, you can go to the big cities like I do occasionally, you have that range, you can do a lot. Now we're heading out towards the outback. That's the middle of fucking nowhere pretty much, except for the farmers and small farm towns that make you feel like you've gone back in time, except they have modern cars thrown into the mix. They really have the worst luck with animals, but that's because they live among the environment. If you ever see the videos of the guy punching a kangaroo in the face that's holding his dog hostage, that happened out back somewhere.
Let it go, dogs, let's go! Down the dog's coming.
They do some mental stuff out there, and they're like the child you bring to a wedding that thought dragging a snake inside was a good idea. Except the kids supplied the food to the wedding, so you really have no choice but to accept them. That's a joke. They do supply most of the food to the rest of Australia, so thank you to the farmers out there. If there's any listening to this, you guys are the real MVPs. And you're getting screwed over by food companies. Anyways, If you're staying in the outback for some reason, the main things you should probably keep an eye out are for spiders and snakes, but also kangaroos now, and koalas. Kangaroos really do some damage, and they cause most of it in the outback because they prefer living in open plains, and that's where they like hanging out. Usually a kangaroo will fuck your shit up in the fact that if you hit it with your car, they will easily smash through the windscreen and crush you, or at least they'll destroy the front of your car because the speed limit is 80 kilometers out west, and literally mostly everyone out there does 120. It's mental out there. Koalas, they're dangerous in the fact that they'll rip your face off. Like, they're not cute, fluffy animals. They're actually quite violent creatures if you mess with them. But in reality, just avoid touching them. Like, don't go... This is for all the tourists out there that don't know anything about koalas. Don't go out there and go, oh, I want to hug it. It's a cute bear. No. It'll drop bear you. Another fun fact. There's no such thing as drop bears, people. If you're watching this thinking to hear about drop bears, there's no such thing as drop bears. It's something that we made up to mess with the rest of the world. I'm sorry to you Americans that believe in them. I probably should mention cassowaries. Cassowaries, they're big flightless birds. Honestly, they're not a big threat here. As long as you leave them alone, you're usually pretty good. If you get into a fight with a cassowary, though, good fucking luck. They've got massive talons, and they're just scary creatures. You don't want to mess with cassowaries. But you'll be fine. There aren't that many cassowaries around here. Just don't mess with them.
When my mates all ask me the place that I had until them right, oh, aye, what do we tell them? Keep me home among the gum trees.
Alright, number 2. Let's get into this. So this one is actually aimed to you Americans to learn a bit about our gun laws. Fun fact, Australians can actually own guns and shoot. Yeah, I know, right? Most people outside of Australia don't seem to know this, or at least don't have a great understanding of it. Which is fair, because we don't usually end up on the news for mass shootings. Another country holds the record for that. America. Now, anyway, sorry, go back to... I don't know where that came from. I better go back to what I was saying. The reason why the gun laws are so strict, I suppose, in Australia is because we had one mass shooting a while back, and the government went, oh shit, that's not good. We probably shouldn't have let that happen again. Let's do a massive buyback and buy all the guns back from the Australian citizens. So whether you own legal firearms or not, you're able to trade them in for money and you want to get in trouble. So, pretty neat. To get a gun license now, you have to make sure that you don't have a criminal record. You have to go through a training course, which is basically a question sheet, like multiple choice. Like questions like, you're there with your friend Tim. Tim doesn't know how to use a firearm. Should you give him the rifle fully loaded and just tell him to start shooting without any prior training? And the answers are yes, but show him where the trigger is. No, you shouldn't give him the rifle. You should give him the rifle, but make sure no one else is around. And like, explain how it's worked or something or other, and then just, yeah, I don't know. Questions like that. Very common sense questions. Some are like, where, like, are you allowed to shoot? In Australia, you can't shoot anywhere on land that is less than 40 acres. You have to shoot above 40 acres, or you can go to a gun range and shoot there. You're not allowed to own fully automatic weaponry or semi-automatic, so you have to, it's got to be lever action or pump action. The laws vary some places. This is talking about Queensland. The laws do change in different states, I believe. I'm not an expert on the rest of Australia, so I can't neither confirm or deny that. Oh, and I just got cut off, so that's going to just be a little bit weird there. But we also can own pistols, but we can't have open carry. And if you have a pistol in Queensland of Australia, you got to go to a gun club like twice a month. And also, you got like all your weaponry in a safe. It's very strict. But in saying that, we haven't had any shootings or anything like that for a while. So it's worked. Australia is very good, very safe in the fact that we don't have shootings here all that much. There's still crime. Usually bogans high on meth or some shit deciding to rob a bank with a sock and a lock or a lock in a sock, sorry. But yeah, there's some information about the gun laws for you.
With lots of palm tree, a sheep to a kangaroo, a clothesline out the back, veranda out the front, and an old rocking chair.
Number 3, Australian slang is just so mental. So I decided I'll go through a quick list of common slang words and what they mean. If you ever hear Australian mention a bolo, they are talking about a bottle shop, and they want to buy alcohol usually because we're Australian. What do you expect of us? If you ever hear an Australian say bloody oath, they are saying yes to something or saying that's very true. They just use bloody in any other context. For instance, bloody hell is just saying it's very hell or it is worse or greater than usual. If an Australian says they're heading into the bush, they're talking about walking into a forestry area. Rack off is another cool one, and it's a polite way of saying get lost or piss off. Though to be honest, most Australians would just say piss off because we're not a polite culture. If someone says they are crook, they are saying that they are sick. If someone is flat out, they are extremely busy and have no time for themselves usually. If something is a bit iffy, that means they are unsure about something or it doesn't look safe. For instance, the bridge looks a bit iffy, we should send grandma across first. If someone is in the middle of whoop whoop, they're in the middle of nowhere. You may actually get this one if you come to Australia and ask for directions. Just because it's a fun word, whoop whoop. For instance, if you went and asked, where does Jamie live to a friend, he might say, oh yeah, nah mate, he lives in the middle of whoop whoop about 4 kilometers west. You'll see his house number. Yeah, so that's usually, the middle of whoop whoop is usually used more in that weird middle area I mentioned earlier in this video, and in the middle of nowhere. It's used, but mostly in the middle of nowhere, towns, and that's where it's used the most, because they are in the middle of whoop whoop. Australians also like to use the word ya and use. This is probably the most commonly used Australian slang, and it's one of the ones I use a lot as well. Oh, and we created yeah, nah, I believe, and nah, yeah, nah. I don't know what that's like for the rest of the world, but if you ever hear an Australian saying yeah, nah, or nah, yeah, listen to the last word, and that's what they're saying. So if they go yeah, nah, he's actually saying no. You ask him a question, what are you doing? Do you want to come hang out with us tonight? Yeah, nah. He's saying no. You could go yeah, nah, yeah. That means he wants to go. So just keep an ear out for the last one. You'll be fine. It's not that hard. You'll get the hang of it. It's more of a recent thing, and to be honest, older generations, I've heard them complain about it. They don't like it.
You can see me in the kitchen, cooking up a roast, or Vegemite on toast, just you and me, a cup of tea. Later on, we'll settle down and go out on the porch.
Most Australian folk heroes are actually criminals or bushrangers. For instance, our probably most famous icon is Ned Kelly, the bushranger that started his own gang, the Kelly Gang, and murdered a bunch of cops, and then became extremely famous for his final shootout with the police where he wore his metal armor. He was basically bulletproof. That was until the cops realized his legs were uncovered, and they lit them up and he couldn't walk anymore. He then got hanged, and he famously stated such his life before his death. Though in recent years, this has actually been challenged, because there's only been one person in that time, I believe, who actually said he said it. The one reporter that was there for his death, and no one else heard it. So this has been debated, but it's more for his legend now, and it's just a cool saying, such is life. I mean, that's a pretty badass way to go out. We also have another famous criminal who was around in recent years. That's Mark Chopper Reed. He was an absolute nutcase, no one can deny that, but he became famous for his insane antics, and he was loved because he would never hurt the average Joe. If you weren't part of the criminal underworld, you were left alone by him. And that's why he became famous. He did some brutal stuff. He even famously stated that he hated drug dealers because he saw them as taking advantage of people who had an illness. The reason though he is also really famous is because he cut off his own ears in prisons to avoid getting killed because he had a hit on him, and he decided that was the best way to get out of prison because he could prove his life was in danger. That's also the reason why he's known as Chopper. He chopped off his ears, yeah. Aren't we just a colourful bunch here? I personally believe Australia's famous folk hero type deals come from criminals because a lot of real famous ones have like an underdog story to them in Australia. I also believe it has something to do with the British sending the criminals to Australia in the early days of the discovery of Australia. I have no proof of this, but it's just a feeling. Talking about the UK, let's get into number 5.
And watch the possums fly. There's a sci-fi's up the corner and a Woolies down the street, and a brand new place they've opened up and they regulate the heat. But I tried them all.
Australia has a weird relationship with the UK. A lot of Australians take the piss take out of the British, and they probably do the same thing to us. Australians are usually very friendly, but if a stereotypical Brit was hanging out with a group of Australians and started to act posh or superior in any way, the Australians can and probably will get nasty. I'm telling this from a personal experience as well. I've seen it at my high school when I was younger. We had a British kid that was a bit up himself, I guess you could say, and he made himself an easy target. I'm not saying that we hate the British, and I'm not saying I condone those things that happened, but I will say we are very similar in a lot of ways as well. We both have this similar same of humour, that sarcastic humour, and we like to tackle taboo subjects, though the main difference would be that Australians and their sense of humour can sometimes be extremely offensive. Like, if you are anywhere except the big city, you could ask a joke from an Australian, and it's probably going to be racist, sexist, or just really messed up. Like, way more than is acceptable for the rest of the world. What do you expect from a country, though, that uses the C word as a compliment at times? I mean, we call our best friends that word as well. If we said that in any other country, though, we would be in a world of trouble. Australians also call the British pommies, as well as pom, and it's a slang word for them, I suppose you could say. It actually stands for Prisoner of Her Majesty, and it's also derived from pomegranate, which is basically saying the British have red cheeks. In return, the British tend to call us convicts due to the fact they sent the criminals here when the country was first discovered. A lot of Australians are okay if you jokingly call them a convict and you know them, though if you use this as an insult in Australia, the Australians will bite back and not hold anything back. And talking from a personal experience, I've seen a Brit do this and an Aussie duke it out over this simple insult. Australians in general, though, don't like to be seen as British, though this comes from a massive history. The truth of the matter is a lot of us are multicultural here. This is due to the mining boom where people all over the world immigrated to Australia to try and become rich by panning for gold or mining for gold. And we don't like to be seen just as British, as we aren't all British. A lot of us are a mixture of Irish, Scottish, British. Myself, I'm part Lithuanian, so we have a diverse range of people here, and we don't like it when we get called British or compared to the British, even though we do have some similarities, and we tend to fight over those similarities, but not much you can do about that. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope to make these videos more regularly, but they do take a bit of time to edit, like I said in the beginning, so we'll see. Besides that, remember to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed and you want to see more of these types of videos. If you have any questions about Australia, leave it in the comments and I'll possibly talk about them. See yous.
But I tried them all tomorrow for a little bush retreat with a kookaburra's call. Give me a
Most Australian folks here... Wow, my god. The reason though he's probably... Oh my fuck. Kangaroos can do some... Oh my fucking god. I probably should If someone is saying they are crook, they are saying they are sick. If someone is saying they are crook, they are saying they are... Oh my fucking god! Jesus. I don't even have my Alexa hooked up to tell me how stupid I am. Okay, let's try this again. Come on, Karen, you got this. You got this.